Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to another one of our weekly streams, and we've got a special guest tonight. First time, I think, on the stream. Someone not related to the pie, but a special guest. Welcome, Alex.
Hey, hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Also, we've got our legendary holy man, Paul Rimmer, on, and of course, a strong man of the NHPUK, Pat McGinnis there. Please follow our descriptions. Check out our website. We'll put these links up during the stream.
That's it.
As you know, I've been pretty busy locally lately in Oldham. Pat's been busy canvassing down in London. And obviously, Paul's been busy preaching the word of the Lord and that. So,
hallelujah.
Welcome to the stream, everyone. Welcome to the stream. As you can see, European farming. Now, I'm not wrong here, but if we know about our Earth and we know about the temperate zones that we have around the Earth, the temperate zone that goes through Europe is ideal for farming. Obviously, you can't farm in the desert in that central zone, but the zone above and the zone below are good for farming. And lately, everything to do with farming has come under threat. As we see, there is protests in Germany. Last year and the year before, we had protests in Holland. And of course, our own farmers are struggling if we look deep into it. What's going on, guys? Pat, what's going on? Come on.
Well, I'm very curious to know everybody's opinions on this. And I mean, I personally think that the globalists are trying to take control of our food supply. That's what I think it's all about. And they're using these fraudulent climate hoax excuses, and I think it's a very serious situation. And although Geert Wilders is a Zionist, he's been elected more or less on this farming issue, along with immigration probably. But Geert Wilders joined with the farmers, and he got masses of support because what the globalists are doing is it's just insane. It's insanity what they're trying to do. And I don't know what the real reason is, but, it's all WEF linked. One of our policies is to leave the WEF. We're a Christian nationalist party. We want to leave all of these globalist organizations, NATO, WEF, WHO, IMF, UN. And I think the globalists are getting desperate, and they're really getting desperate, because what they're doing in Germany is shifting a massive load of votes towards the AfD. I mean, they are so popular now, and everybody must remember not too long ago they were talking about banning AfD because they're so worried about them. So I don't know what the real reason is, but like I say, I'm suspicious it could be that they're trying to get hold of the food supply, because they can see nationalism rising in Europe, and they are absolutely terrified.
There are underlying political issues here. I mean, first of all, there's an immediate problem for the German government with their budget. They've overspent. I don't know if you know, the German government is a coalition. It's called the Ampel, which means the traffic light. Excuse me. Now, part of that coalition are the Free Democrats. And the Free Democrats join that coalition on the condition that the government maintain a balanced budget. They don't go into massive debt. Germany has a constitutional demand that the budget must be balanced. The Germans are terrified of debt. In the 1920s, inflation nearly destroyed the country. Now, because they've allowed this uncontrolled mass immigration into Germany, literally 3 million people have entered since Merkel said, come in, you're all welcome. And most of them, over 80%, have gone on to benefits and are basically just dependent on the state. So this has imposed hundreds of billions each year demanded by these immigrants of the German state. And the German government needs to raise fresh revenues. One of the ways it was going to do it, which was supposedly in line with the Green Agenda, was to tax diesel. The problem is the farmers use diesel in their tractors in huge amounts. So any big tax leap in diesel would hit the farmers hard. And the farmers are already suffering post the pandemic. I mean, you know, all their margins are being squeezed. All their inputs are being rising, and they're not getting any better prices from the supermarkets. So the farmers are under intense pressure. And not only were the German government going to increase the taxes on the farmers, they were going to cut the subsidies to farmers. Farmers need subsidies because farming is very unpredictable. If you get bad weather, it can ruin a crop. I mean, the cost of a tractor now is £250,000. So the cost of farming has gone through the roof. So there's all these immediate practical issues which ignited was a catalyst for the farmers to rise up and say, we're not putting up with this. And the farmers immediately made the analogy, why have the German government got so much money for these immigrants who've never put a penny into the system, but they've got nothing for the farmers, they're bleeding the farmers dry. You know, this gets to the core of the issue, the role of the state. You see, we've always regarded the state as being sort of our patron, someone who looks after us, a father figure, someone who looks after the wider society. That's the role of the state, especially since the Second World War. But the state now is not acting like a father figure. It's like it's not interested in its own children. It's only interested in serving the international elite. And this is what's happening in Germany. The state has abandoned the farmers when the farmers need them. And instead, the state are being very benevolent towards all these people who are turning up from the Middle East or Africa or South Asia, people who don't have any sort of call on the German state, and yet they're milking it dry. And the farmers are saying there's an injustice here, a fundamental injustice. The big slogan they're using in these demos is what was used in East Germany just before the fall of communism. Wir sind das Volk. We are the people. We are the people. This is our country. This is our soil. These are our jobs. And we demand that our politicians look after us. But of course, Olaf Scholz, who's the Prime Minister of Germany, he's a lefty, he's a globalist, he has no interest in backing the farmers. And they actually had a counter demonstration, the left, in Potsdam a few days ago against this farmers' uprising. That's how crazy they are. So there's a real social tension mounting in Germany. And just to put into that mix the political dimension, the alternative for Deutschland. The German people have an alternative political vehicle. What we don't have in this country, they have now an established alternative political vehicle which can really rock the establishment. So this is a social struggle, it's an economic struggle, and it's a political struggle. And the outcome of this is going to determine the future of Europe, because Germany's at the heart of Europe. Germany's at the heart of the EU. The EU is falling apart because Germany is not providing leadership. This is a massive crisis. It's come over from Holland, as you said before, Pat. Geert Wilders I just cracked open the system in Holland, and the AFD, there's elections in Germany, there's the European elections in June, and then later in the year, there's Länder elections, especially in East Germany, where the AFD are particularly strong, and it's going to crack open the whole German system. I mean, we're entering a unique period here where all the post-war consensus is about to melt down in 2024. Adam, do you want to say anything? Alex, is it? Alex, sorry.
Well, that was a very good summation, Paul. Yeah, I'd just like to add to the conversation. It can be quite difficult to pin down exactly why is it that the current regime we live under has such contempt for farmers. But all we can do is observe the effects of their basically anti-farmer attitude, and that is you're going to have less farms, which inevitably means you're just going to have more space to put immigrants on. Let's be real. Because most space is needed outside of the cities for farming. So if they destroy farming, well, that benefits the pro-migrant types. It's also going to have the effect of making Europe itself just less self-sufficient. Again, it's just further undermining our sovereignty. It's going to increase prices again, further just impoverishing the poor, creating a further divide between rich and poor. And also when it comes to, people like Scholz, these types of politicians, people of a left-wing persuasion, they typically are quite hostile to rural folk like farmers, because farmers tend to be quite traditional, parochial people. Obviously, they love city folk because they're more open to, progressive ideas and stuff like this. So that, that's the current state of it. And I think it would be smart for any nationalist political party to back the farmers, to get them on side, because currently there are no farmers, let's say no parties in this country that are for the farmers, none whatsoever. So it'd be smart for any nationalist party to adopt that.
Thank you, Alex. So, Paul, in relation to what's going on in Germany and what's gone on in Holland, is that like mirroring what's going to happen here, or are we already taking up a bit of the slack of the same kind of thing?
Well, these policies, the globalist policies, aren't they? What's happened because of globalism? No one's got security anymore. We don't have secure borders. We don't have secure economies. It's not only that the farmers in Germany are facing added burdens off the state, they're also bringing in cheap imports, especially from the Ukraine. The Ukraine war is a key factor in all of this because Scholz is a globalist, he's a Zionist, he is fervently in favor of Zelensky and wants to go to war against Putin. It's crazy what's happening in Germany. And Scholz is throwing his whole weight behind the Ukrainian regime. And part of that is that he's allowed the Ukrainians to export cheap grain into Germany, which again is undermining the German farmers. And that globalization, which is undermining the German farmers, taking away their security, is also undermining our farmers. I mean, we've seen this. We saw with it. I don't know if you remember a few months ago where eggs suddenly disappeared from the supermarkets because all the structures that are put in place were collapsing. And our farmers are being impacted in this. But as Alex said, there's no political dimension because there's no one to organize them. This is why politics is so important. The AfD provides an alternative. It's the AfD constantly speaking in to this against this globalist agenda and promoting the idea of the German state defending German farmers, which has really triggered this rebellion because it's changed the way people think and act. You see, if the state can get a dominant narrative and control of the political system, any opposition is marginalized and pushed over the edge and is made irrelevant. X is the key factor here, Twitter. Because on Twitter, these farmers are being organized. On Twitter, they've made the case. On Twitter, they've posted their videos and got popular support and organized their demos. Now, the way the state is reacting to this alternative political structure, alternative political ideology, popular uprising, the way the state is reacting is through oppression, trying to suppress the opposition. Pat said it before, they're trying to make the AfD illegal, but they can't do that. Constitutionally, that's a no-goer. Although, see, instead of debating the issues and coming to resolution with the people, the role the state are playing, and I've seen this with heavy policing in Germany over the last few days, the German police are acting like the French police now. They're just trying to suppress the people's anger. They're not entering into political dialogue. They're not resolving these issues. That's why the issues are going to get worse and worse, because the state no longer reacts to the people they're supposed to serve. We now are like an embarrassment to the state. They're not interested in us. They're interested in the global elite who finances them individually. A lot of them are bought and paid for. They're interested in the mass migration, the immigrants that are pouring in because they see them as their future. I mean, they want to create a totally different society in which we, the indigenous people, are completely replaced. So how do they respond to us and to our demands and to our outrage at what's happening? they try and suppress us. They're trying to block us, to stop us building a narrative. But Elon Musk has allowed a narrative to emerge. We just see Trump win in Iowa last night by record margin. It's because of X. People are getting the message out there. This is why in Britain it's so important that we use these social media vehicles and we create a genuine political force that can challenge the elite. I mean, you know, Alex has been part of various parties. I have, Pat has, John has. We need to coalesce and come together and create a real force to challenge the establishment, an alternative for Britain.
Pat, earlier on, I did mention earlier on about the supermarkets and the pressure that they put on farmers. Of course, it can put the prices up. The two Asda owners are in trouble for hiking the prices up, but the farmers are saying that they're not getting any extra for their eggs or anything. I've seen a few videos on social media of this egg farmer saying this, you know, they're putting them up by so much, but they're not giving the farmer any extra. So them supermarkets are a big hassle with the farmers, and obviously, like you said, they get cheap stuff, and you know, I want to go back to more traditional food sources like farming. I'm very big on traditional meats and stuff like that, and as being a meat eater, and I love shopping local. But Pat, come on, how are we going to solve this?
Right, well, just going back to the conversation, I would like to add this. When Geert Wilders was campaigning for his elections, I mean, the mainstream media in this country have done a very good job in suppressing what was actually going on in Holland. And it's true what Paul's saying. It is very important about X, because we're not totally free, but we're doing all right. And I remember clearly seeing reports that the government in Holland were literally saying we need to get rid of these farms to build houses for immigrants. That was a major part of it. And like I heard these stories, and then I didn't hear about them for a while, and then all of a sudden Geert Wilders is the biggest party in the Dutch Parliament. And you know, like, what I'm trying to say is our media and the whole system they're very good at suppressing stuff, but there's an uprising going on, and I really do believe that the globalists are panicking. Big Vinny in the chat just said, you know, 1930s Ukraine with Stalin. What did they do to the farmers? And what is it? Is it a similarity? What's going on? It's pretty serious stuff, because you know what the hell do they think we're going to do? Eat this synthetic meat and synthetic whatever they're producing? It's just insane what is going on. So yeah, I mean, I feel very excited. I think things are really about to change. I've always said it in this country. The next 2 years, politically, things are going to change. And you know, Alec is part of the Homeland Party. Get registered. And anyone who wants to stop immigration, anybody who wants to stop permanent settlement immigration, you know, I will consider working with him. Obviously, we've invited Alec on, so we're happy with Alec. And you know, we need to stop permanent settlement immigration. That's the goal, and I think we're getting closer to that goal. So I mean, it's just incredible what's going on. And you know, I've said it a million times before. The reason the UK is not in a position like they are in France or in Germany is because of Brexit. Everybody was fighting for Brexit. Everybody kind of gave all the power to Farage. Farage got all the power and he just gave it all back to the Tories in 2019. And look where we are now. We've got nothing. We've had to start again, but we'll get there. It's just going to take longer. We're 4 or 5 years behind France. National Rally are literally on the verge of getting into power. You know, I know that they're a bit wishy-washy with some of their policies, but it's still a major change. And I don't know the AFD's policies inside out, but I've heard they're a bit moderate as well. But like I say, this is a major change, and what it will do, even if you know they are moderate and they do get into power, it's going to destroy the European Union, and that's a good thing for nationalism. So yeah, I mean it's all to play for, guys. And I know Alex is passionate about the political route. That's why I kind of connected with him. And I don't really want to be around people saying, "Oh, there's no solution. There's no political solution." You know, look at France, for God's sake. They are literally, National Rally are literally making policy. Macron needs their vote to get policies through. And they say, well, actually, we want this policy made a bit more tougher. Thank you very much. Or we're not going to vote for it. So voting does work. I'm not going to say nothing about Trump because I'm neutral with Trump now. I'm not going to be against him. I'm not going to be for him. But even if he does win, it's still going to be a massive change. You know, it's all little steps towards the right, and you know, it's about to happen in this country. But this farming thing is a major thing, and that is how I do believe that got Geert Wilders over the line. You know, I think they're panicking, the globalists. I really think they're panicking, and they're trying to get hold of the food supply. I don't know if they're going to do another Holodomor on us, but I'll hand it over to Alec.
Yeah, I think one of the things we've not been doing in British politics, nationalists specifically, is we haven't been curating or targeting different demographics. We've been just kind of broadly trying to recruit, as you know you would do. But, you know, we need to start finessing our messaging to different groups to get on side. And as I said, I think farmers will be a part of that, absolutely, because they have no representation. And that's what they're looking for. Plus, also, you know, protecting our farmers, protectionism goes hands in hand, doesn't it, with, you know, ideas of nationalism, national sovereignty, stuff like this. So, you know, there's untapped potential there, but it needs to go just beyond farmers as well. There's many other different demographics, and we have to have, you know, really well thought out strategies, you know, to start getting people on side.
I'll just
chip
in. If I remember correctly, and I talked to a farmer called Derek Wilkinson from North East, one of the biggest demos ever was when they took was fox hunting ban in London, 750,000 people. And, you know, he said, I remember Derek, he said 2-3 years ago, if you get the farmers on side, you've got a massive broad support from across all of England, not just one area. That's what he said. So respect to Derek Wilkinson, farmer there, and he knew what he was talking about. But go on, Paul.
That was exactly the point I was going to make, John. You see, the farmers in Germany, as in Holland, are being the catalyst for a mass movement. It's not just farmers they're blocking all the roads in Germany. They're shutting down the cities. And who's joined them? The truckers. Who's joined them? Small businessmen. Who's joined them? The ordinary people have got on the street and clapped them and fed them. And so, like the truckers in Canada, when they rebelled against the vaccine program. They become a catalyst, you see. What matters is action. When people see action, it changes things. When you do things, I mean, this is why I give a lot of credit to Paul Golding, actually, and Britain First, because he's a very proactive guy, Paul. There's nothing to stop him. He always makes things happen. And this is what politics is about. Politics is about action, ultimately. You can create the organization, you can reach out to different groups, but you've got to give them something to coalesce around. And because the farmers have actually took action and started blocking the German motorways and blocking the German cities, the truckers straight away joined in. And not only truckers from Germany, they've come from Poland, they've come from Hungary, they've come from France, they've come from Holland. It's like a widespread rebellion. The big problem is Europe's gone into a deep freeze. It's like -10. So it's like Canada when the truckers there rebelled. It's so cold that, you know, to go out and campaign. I mean, they had this vote in Iowa last night, and it was like -20 in Iowa, you know. So I hope this, but it's come June, there's the EU elections for the European Assembly. That's in every state in Europe. And these are massive elections like they were in Britain when the BNP won seats and UKIP won loads of seats. Obviously, they topped the poll in them. This is an opportunity for the nationalist parties to get out there and campaign and win votes, win people's hearts and minds. Now, it looks like the nationalist parties are going to win these elections. Now, you might say, well, who cares about the European Assembly? It doesn't actually have any real power. Every MEP is worth £4 million a year. They have their own office, their own staff. They can put them on big salaries. They get all sorts of expenses. And for small nationalist parties, I mean, this is how the Front National survived through the years. This is how the AFD have grown so big. This is how Geert Wilders has survived. This is how Vox is getting bigger. They get this money from the European Union by winning these elections. We actually milk the people who are trying to kill us. I mean, it's a judo tactic, you know. Let's switch their weight. Let's use their power to actually empower us. Now, sadly, of course, we no longer have that option, being out of the EU. And we've got to find new options. We've got to find new ways. I mean, it was great when, for example, PA were having these demos. But obviously, as we see in Germany, the police are really the vanguard of the globalist elite. And the police are suppressing any popular uprising. We're seeing it in Ireland now with the Garda, all the demos in Ireland. The Garda are being very aggressive. But the people don't like to see farmers attacked. I remember when these anti-hunt, pro-hunt demonstrations were carried in London and the police stormed in with truncheons and cracked skulls. It was disgusting. People don't like to see ordinary, decent people who are just demonstrating over political issues attacked by the police. So the police are walking on eggshells, really. And I just see, as Pat said, this year, 2024, it's going to be explosive across Europe. And we haven't really mentioned the Ukrainian war, which is shaping a lot of the wider narrative. But these narratives that the elite try and impose upon us, their stories explaining what they're doing, they're breaking down, we're challenging them left, right, and centre. They can't get their message out without it being shown to be bogus. We have truth on our side, and the truth, as the Bible said, will set you free. John?
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. So, I mean, what I could say to people is buy British, buy from your local farmer and stuff like your local stores. I always do, and I've got a good chance in Oldham of doing that several places. You can't always everywhere. You can go online, you can start buying more British stuff and investing in it. There's nothing wrong with investing in stuff. We have the PTSD camp, and we're looking at this summer doing a big, massive project in the garden, making beetroots, carrots and stuff like that. There is a lot of people already growing their own stuff. That's what I do. And we do need food security. We can't leave it in the, I think we can all agree, we cannot leave it in the hands of the globalists. We can't. They'll starve us and they'll use that as well as all the other techniques they want to go. Now, we've done 30 minutes, and I think a really important thing that we can mention right now is the Rochdale grooming report that's just come out. It's all over the media and stuff like that. I just want to, I think we can get some sound on this video, and it's from one of the homeland, and it's on TikTok. Let's just see if I can get it up. Hopefully we can hear the sound.
Establishment. We find out in a report released about Greater Manchester Police that they have essentially, and I quote from the report, they've left these girls to the mercy of the grooming gang. Now, we're not just talking about one or two girls here, we're talking about hundreds, potentially thousands. The police have essentially chosen to do nothing. They knew this was happening. This wasn't a secret, just left them to the lions. These poor girls have gone through all the pain and the fear and the damage, and these police have done nothing. None of them are resigning. None of them are falling on the swords. These people should be getting rid of all the pensions and the wages and everything and just falling on the sword and say, we've done something heinous here. But you know what? They don't even think they've done anything wrong. So they'll sit quietly and hope this goes over their heads. And the truly galling thing is, if this had been the other way around, if this had been white men raping Muslim girls on an industrial scale, they would have turned over every single stone possible to stop this. Our people deserve so much more.
There we go. The reports come out, and straight away, there's no accountability. No one's going to lose a job. There is no sackings or anything like that. And the other thing is, in the report, there's no accountability from the Muslim Pakistani community, and nobody's telling me that they are not held to account of the things that they do. And this always happens. This always happens in Oldham. This always happens in Oldham. I've talked about the Ritchie report in 2001, which states a lot of the stuff going on now was going on before 2000s for 20 or 30 years. It's what the report says. I weren't even active in 2001, and still there's no accountability. Everybody I know who knows anything about the grooming, the child sex, is angry. And there's only one person sticking up for us, and that's Nick Buckley, independent runner for Mayor and Crime Commissioner. But it's absolutely disgraceful. The same things over and over again. Police failings, not doing this, political correctness, this. But as that guy said on that video, I have no doubt, if it was the other way around, there'd be, it won't be just the perpetrators arrested. All the families would be arrested. Anybody related to these people would be dragged into the police station. They don't do it to the Islamic community because they have to ask before they go in to arrest any prominent members of that section of the community. I'm not being awful, but how is that like anything to do with British values or anything like that? It's just an absolute scandal. You haven't heard the last of this off me. I'm going to be doing videos on a daily basis. Going to be in the town centre. I'm going to be talking to people, and I'm going to be calling our council the hypocrisy that they deserve. But Pat, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a disgrace been going on since before the 2000s. BNP exposed the whole thing. I mean, you know, the BNP was crushed from multiple angles, and if they were allowed to blossom, you know, it may have stopped it because they were a serious political party. They were the establishment were terrified, and but yeah, I mean, I just want to go back to something what Alex said before, like targeting different demographics like the farmers. I mean, another demographic what people don't realise who are being absolutely throttled are the self-employed chippies, carpenters, electricians. You know, they're being forced to drive at 20 miles an hour everywhere. You know, you got the ULEZ, you got just non-stop restrictions on the motorist, and like it's all going to backfire. It's slowly tipping towards our way of thinking. You know, it's on all of our leaflets about the war on the motorist. And one other thing I'd just like to mention is in the chat a minute ago, someone just said that what's his name, Anderson, the outspoken Tory MP. What's his first name?
Lee Anderson.
Lee Anderson. He's just resigned from the Conservative Party because of the boats. This is major. I mean, if this is true, this is quite a major thing because presumably some others will do it as well. And you know, presumably they're going to go to Reform UK. I don't like Reform UK, but if they can drag down the Conservative Party and split the Conservative Party, it's going to be a good thing. So things are changing, and that Lee Anderson resigning, he's basically said because of Sunak, and he's failed to stop the boats. They've got no intention of stopping them. The only way the boats will be stopped, let me tell the audience, is to stop accepting refugees. We don't want any more refugees in this country. We're not going to keep going on about illegals because the root of the problem is we accept refugees. And the Conservative Party, Labour, Reform, UKIP, all these parties, they keep saying in their manifestos, but we must accept refugees. No, that is the root of the problem. Until you take that off the table, they're never going to stop coming to this country and trying to invade us. So, you know, I'm sure Alec agrees with that. We need no more refugees. And this Lee Anderson resigning from the Tory party could be quite a major thing what's happened.
Go on, Alex.
It's quite demoralising, isn't it? We've had many activists for years sounding the alarm about these paedophile rape gangs. They get called grooming gangs, but that's kind of to soften it, isn't it? When we really should just be calling them paedophile rape gangs. And yeah, we're still getting reports and seeing no change. So that, you know, that's it's deeply disturbing and upsetting. But it just reminds us that we're not going to get any change whilst we still have red and blue, forming governments. It's going to take new parties. Here's something that's a bit of a white pill. It's like we don't have to win at a general election to start to get some justice. If we can start replacing these people that are on the council, because a lot of it stems from these councillors betraying those girls. If we can get our guys on these councils, local politics, community politics, then hopefully more girls in the future won't suffer because we can't rely on the police. So, that would be my call to arms to say to people, please do consider the community politics. Don't write it off, because think about how many girls can be saved if we start to change the local administration of, our towns and cities.
Paul?
Yeah, I mean, Alex has made an important point there, communities, right? We've all become, in the post-war period, dependent on the state, the big state. We expect the police to protect our girls. Now, in the past, fathers protected their daughters. Local communities protected their local girls. And it was direct action. If anyone infringed it, they would take action. If you depend on the state, if you live by the state, you will die by the state. Because the state in Britain now, in the whole Western world, has been hijacked by the globalists. And it's just an instrument to attack us and destroy us. People still haven't woken up to this reality. They still ask the politicians for solutions. They still believe that the state will come to their rescue. The state is abandoning the indigenous people of this nation. And we must rise up as individuals, form our own battalions, for our own political parties, form our own support networks if we're going to survive. Because the state is now our enemy. And we cannot get control of the state. I mean, we can influence it, but we've got to take power back to the people. It's got to be. I mean, this is the thing about a revolution. There's two paths to a revolution. You have a revolution from below, where you overthrow the established order, or you take over the established order and then start the revolution. That's a lot easier. Doesn't mean we're going to get that option. Now, Pat mentioned Donald Trump before. The establishment in America are terrified of Donald Trump because he represents the American people. He's a catalyst for action for the MAGA army. He's a catalyst for massive change in America. We've got to support Donald Trump 100%. He's not perfect, but he is the catalyst for change. And we've got to have a change which mobilizes the people. And you can tell who is making the change by who the globalists stand against. Now, you talked about Front National in France, the National Rally they're called now. They have a French strategy which has been proven very successful, and they've acquired political power. The AfD in Germany, there's roadblocks ahead, you see. Ultimately, when the state realizes that they're going to lose power, they'll cheat, just as they cheated in the 2020 presidential election. The state will only support democracy as far as democracy works in their interest. Once democracy begins to threaten them, they'll throttle democracy. That doesn't mean we don't use democracy. That doesn't mean we don't use it to mobilize and to take power and to sort of educate our people. Ultimately, it's a question of survival. You see, the ultimate security that we had in the past came not from the state before the Second World War. It came from the church. People relied on their churches and on their spiritual security. That's what organized and mobilized people. They were the hearts of local communities, churches. Now, we've lost that. We've lost our faith. We've lost our sense of the divine. So we haven't got that security anymore. And instead, we look to the state to give us protection and provide for us. And the state are not going to do it. The state are not a benevolent God. The state are not interested in the people. The politicians now, the Lib, Lab, Con, and all the major established political parties in Europe, they're only interested in their own careers and their own advancement as a clique, a political clique. And this is why we've got to challenge the whole narrative. You see, it's how people are thinking about things that leads to change. In Germany, people have actually realized now, they've been blackpilled. They realized that the German state is their greatest enemy and they're going to have to overthrow it. And this is going to rattle right through Europe. I mean, it's a dramatic statement, but it's going to unfold over time. Things, not only, I mean, they stop you driving over 20 miles per hour. Everything's insane now. I mean, the only issue that the major established parties have with immigration is how fast they can bring the immigrants in, because their goal is to replace us. This isn't controlled immigration. This is controlled extermination of the indigenous population. So you've got to make people realize that being sort of thinking that a few tinkerings at the edges will make the system work well again in their interest is not going to happen. Unless we organize ourselves, get involved, educate ourselves, start to assert ourselves as a popular force. That's what the National Housing Party, the UK, is all about. The British people asserting themselves again. We're going to be wiped out, guys. And this is the reality. And I know it sounds apocalyptic, but this is what's happening right across the Western world. And now we're seeing world war unfold, because the globalists are not interested in the people of the world. They're not. They're talking about population culling. They're not interested in you. You've got to wake up to this reality. Unless we assert ourselves, they will walk all over us. John?
Thank you for that, Paul. Everyone says, and I've seen it about 3 times tonight, your passion, like they say about me, but it's great to have that passion. But the political route, guys, honestly, there's no other route I'm going to go except for local politics. I'm ready for it. I've been building up to this for over 10 years. I'm an expert canvasser. I can speak to anyone on the street at the door. I know how to sway people's minds. I know how to say the right things, and I'm supremely confident. I don't hide my face or anything. I'm not that kind of person. My address is online. My phone number's online. Obviously, I look after my mum, but nobody in the world's going to be brave enough to do anything against me unless I'm a nasty person back to them. But I'm not a thug. I'm not a thug, people. People at the council now have had meetings with chief execs, deputy execs. We were talking to a deputy exec today. And I'm not a thug, no matter what people say. And this is coming out now that this John guy is a nice guy. He talks good. He follows etiquette. He's not banging on windows or anything like that, like other people. And I'm a serious contender where I'm going, and I'm confident the next 3 years, that local council seat in Hollingwood's mine, and I'm going to keep it for an indefinite period. I don't think I'll get shoved off. On my next leaflet, I'm going to be talking about how we have to focus on the rest of the world, like Israel and Palestine, and leave everything over here. That's what I'm going to say on my leaflet. I'm not bothered about what anyone thinks. Nobody can tell me not to write it down. I'm under electoral rules, and I've got my right to put whatever I want on my leaflet to do with political things, and that is going on. But my leaflet at the top, I'm going to tell them why the 3 Conservatives been kicked out of the Conservative Party for going supporting Palestine. That's not supporting the people of Oldham or Hollingwood. That's sorting out a horrible, nasty war somewhere else. It's nothing to do with me and my party and all the people I talk to. Remember, their trouble started in 1948. Nothing to do with me. Born in 1967 or 01. Nothing to do with it. And it'll be on my leaflet. And I'll be brutally honest. If there's people who support Palestine, they support it, or Israel, they support it. If it were up to me, I'd ban all them protests from both them countries if I was Prime Minister. I don't care if you say, oh, Israel are peaceful. It's nothing to do with 80% of the population of the UK. The Jewish population is about 3%, and the Islamic population is, 8, 9%. So that's nothing to do with over 80% of the United Kingdom. We don't care, but we're bullied into it as well. We're bullied into supporting one of them sides. So it's a big finger up from the National Housing Party and a massive finger up from me. But that's the way I'm going, guys, the political route. If you want to go and protest, you go and protest. It sounds like us 4 in this box are all committed to the political route, and that's the way I want to go. That's the way I'm going to stay. So that's why you need to support the National Housing Party, get some funding for our leaflets, and more. We've run several successful campaigns up and down the country, and there's more coming. We've got candidates in Leicester, another candidate in the Wirral, Angie, will be joining us. We're going to do well in these areas, guys. We're going to do well. We're going to get hundreds of votes each candidate. So that's my thing, and I'm on the political route. But Pat, over to you.
Yeah, just I agree with what you said there. The Middle East has nothing to do with us. It makes me very, very frustrated when our government starts bombing another country in the Middle East, like Yemen, and then they start burning our flags and stuff, and it's very upsetting. It's like we're just helpless in this dictatorship, so to speak, because they don't have a vote on it. They didn't even ask Parliament to do what they did. And so it's nothing to do with us. We are a Christian nationalist party. We don't support Israel. We don't support Palestine. However, Israel is interfering with our politics. There's a Friends of Israel group in every one of our major political parties, and I object to that. So I am anti-Israel on that stance. And but I mean, things are changing, and our party's slowly growing. It's a hard slog, but I don't care. I mean, I've been involved with this since 2012. Local elections is the way to go. There's no way of changing anything apart from going down that route. You cannot win a parliamentary MP seat unless you've won a considerable amount of local seats in that area, at least half, I would say, to get even a decent vote in a parliamentary election. Like Reform are going to find out, like, quite badly, that they're going to get some really bad results because they haven't won any local seats. They've got a few. I think they've got about 4 or 5. It's just like my minuscule amount of seats. So, but they might make an impact in like, making the Tories lose the election. I mean, I don't know if Labour's going to win. The best thing we could get is a hung parliament, because that would make it more chaotic. We don't want Labour or Conservative getting a big majority, because look what Labour just done with an 80-seat majority. I mean, the Tories. Yeah, they just got an 80-seat majority. They could have done anything they wanted at Dover, and they didn't. And I just hope a lot of their people leave their party now, and Labour's splitting off because of Gaza, which is good, and it's gonna open up a path for a new party. And I don't think the solution is going to be a reform. It's going to be with one of our sort of parties, one of our anti-establishment parties, and we're trying our best. I don't care who wins. I just want my goal is to stop permanent settlement immigration and stabilise the nation, secure our borders and our freedom. Over to you, Alex.
Yeah, I'll just provide some words of optimism. Obviously, you had Jeremy Corbyn, and now, well, no, it's been rumoured that Jeremy Corbyn might start his own party. That would be fantastic for us, because it would split the left-wing vote, which would hopefully, break the first past the post system. It would stop this behaviour, hopefully, of the electorate where, we can't not vote Tory because Labour will get in. If Jeremy Corbyn was to take a huge chunk out of Labour, that would seriously undermine that whole dichotomy that traps people into maintaining the two-party status quo. Reform, it's Nigel Farage's party, and they've never done local politics. They've always been quite arrogant and just thought, we'll just be famous at a national level and then we'll win national seats. Well, it doesn't work like that. And Reform are going to find that out. Reform, is a very hollow party. Their so-called memberships system, no one's actually a proper member in the traditional sense. If you become a member of the Reform UK, it doesn't grant you any rights or privileges. You don't get to vote on anything. You get absolutely nothing in return. They do not invest a lot of time and energy in building up local candidates. And when it just comes to their policy, they're a classical Liberal party. Yes, they say they want net zero immigration, one in, one out, which is, better than a few years ago when Nigel Farage was saying, let's get it down to the tens of thousands. So they've kind of moved a little bit harder, but obviously we want no immigration at all. But it's nice to see them moving in that direction. But apart from that, what else do they have to offer? You know, they have all of these other policy pledges, and they don't appeal to ordinary people. So the fact that they're not pushing, you know, kind of socially traditional values, which I think there is a huge appetite for in this country, because there is nobody representing traditional values in the mainstream, they're missing a trick. And so I think the time is ripe for, you know, a traditionalist, nationalist parties to come onto the scene, because I think the hunger is there. And obviously we are lagging behind our European cousins, which means that I think we could get something off the ground very quickly, because there's that vacuum. So they're my words of optimism.
What I would say to that is this. Pat mentioned that the Tories had an 80-seat majority. They couldn't do anything with it. Why? Because the globalists put a spike in the wheel. Giorgia Meloni has taken over Italy. The Brothers of Italy, supposed to be a far-right party, they've done nothing. Why? Because the globalists have put a spike in the wheel. The globalists run these governments. It doesn't matter whether they're blue or red. Keir Starmer is just going to be another globalist operative. He will be identical to the Tory government. There'll be the same levels of immigration. There'll be probably a higher level of taxation. They'll push the multicultural agenda, and they'll also become much more oppressive and try and clamp down on freedom of speech. But it will essentially be a difference of a kind. It won't be a real difference. The people of the West, and Trump has realized this. This is why Trump is so important as a catalyst. Are going to have to overthrow the deep state. They're going to have to overthrow the globalist elite. They're going to have to really, once they get power, begin a revolution. That's the only way we're going to be able to stop mass immigration, because we're under a vice at the moment. We're being crushed from both sides. They're bringing in more and more immigrants, which are draining the resources of this country, taking our housing away from us, taking our education away from us, destroying our welfare state, taking our tax money away from us. They're bankrupting the country. On the other hand, we've got a global recession, which is building up. The chains, the market of the world are being disrupted, and especially these wars are disrupting things. We've got to realize we've entered a new epoch now. In the post-war period, we didn't think there'd be major wars in Europe again. There's a major war unfolding in Europe, and Putin is not going to be defeated. China is there, and China is the counterweight to America. We're in instead of a unipolar world, we're in a multipolar world. We've got the Islamic world, which is 2 billion strong, is starting to really assert itself. What we regarded as the consensus, the status quo, up to this point, is going to be washed away. Now, you may say, what's that got to do with local politics? Local politics are important because there's a micro world and a macro world. You've got to work at the micro level and the macro level, and you've got to make sure they impact each other. You see, it's only if the people get organized and mobilized and wake up and start to assert themselves that they will have any protection at all. People are still under the illusion that the British state will protect them. Look at our armed forces now. Do they protect us from the invasion across the channel, the small boat invasion? No, but they go and protect international shipping in Yemen. They're quite happy to engage in a world war, but they won't protect Britain. This is the reality we face now. The state are not interested in us. At the moment, you see, what will really hurt people is when the welfare state starts to unwind. And it's happening now because the government hasn't got the resources anymore. The reason it's unwinding so fast in Germany, and we're seeing this farmers' uprising, is because the Germans have got to have a balanced budget. They're not allowed mass borrowing. What our governments have done is borrowed, but that's triggered inflation, led to an increase in the interest rate, and it's even that option has been shut off to them. I mean, if Keir Starmer gets power, he's going to have a mountain of problems to deal with, and he has no solutions to any of them. It's going to get far worse. What are people going to do then? Are they going to go back to the Tories who've let them down so badly? I think they'll be reluctant. They're going to need new alternatives. We need a state which looks after the people of the nation state, that provides us with border security, provides us with economic security, and provides us with cultural security, that our culture and our nation is protected by the state. The British state should champion British culture, not Islamic culture, not Afro-Caribbean culture, not any other cultures. It should champion the indigenous local culture. It shouldn't champion Hindu culture. It shouldn't champion Chinese culture. They've got their own states. They've got their own nations. This is our nation. And if we don't actually take control of our nation again, it will die, because these people are out to destroy us. When they talk about the Great Replacement, it's not just two words. It's about the end of our civilization. It's about the loss of any security at all. And it's going to get painful. People might think at the moment they're troubled and there's recession, but this ongoing immigration is going to undermine everything. 1 million people are coming into Britain every year. The different cultural groups amongst us, they're exploding in number. We're under incredible pressure as a nation, and this is happening right across Europe. Across Europe, the people are rising against it. We need to assert ourselves again. That's the message that I want to leave to people. It's time to assert ourselves, and the only way you can assert yourself is through a political vehicle, and that's what the National Housing Party of the UK is all about. Getting the message out that the British people still count in our own country. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Just quickly go to the chat. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Dave 101, Big Vinny, James, John Skidmore, GS, everyone in the chat. There's loads of you, Serena's on. Remember, if you want something bringing up that's to do with us or to do with our party or to do with national politics or European politics, please let us know in an email, and we'll sort that out. You did say you wanted to hear something about Jewish people before, which we will get onto. And although I have my own particular opinions, as we talked about earlier on, Israel has nothing to do with 90% of the UK, and we're sick of it. We don't want any friends of Israel in our party. These people shouldn't be influencing our political parties, and they do influence them. That's why they're all firing bombs from in the Middle East right now. We shouldn't have nothing to do with that. I mean, on the fact that we're Israel and Palestine are going, our terror threat has been increased, and there is a very likely thing that somebody over here who's nothing to do with that war is going to get killed. It's simple as, and you'll just it'll be, no one will say nothing. It'll just be put down to like, well, so what? It's a war. Britain's always to blame for everything, which we're not, and it'll get put down to that. But thank you in the chat and everything. Thank you to Alex K for coming on. If those who know Alex, you would have seen him speaking out at a public meeting, which is what I do well. And I've spoken out. I've even called the police sex offenders and gangsters, and they had to put up with it because they're a disgrace. They are an absolute disgrace, the police. They failed in all this grooming gang. They treat us with our opinions differently than everyone else. And these are the things I'm going to bring up at public meetings. These are the things I'm going to say to Andy Burnham and see how he can handle them. These are what I'm going to say to the police as well. Why'd you pick on me when when I'm protesting against 22 people killed in the Manchester Arena bombing, when the government knew everything about the terrorist family? Why do I get pushed down? Why do we get pushed down for complaining about Islamic terror? And I said on a stream the other day, you can correct me if you think the figures are wrong, but in the past 20 years, we've had 80 to 90 deaths through Islamic terror, and one, maybe two, so-called right-wing like kind of attacks. So it just tells me what's our biggest threat, and I'm not afraid to tell people this. And this is what we need to stand up at public meetings. If there's hustings going on because of the general elections, that's where I tell everyone You need to go organise it, sort out, get a group of people at hustings and get your hand up and get them difficult questions asked of your MPs. Honestly, you put them to shame. I've had Graham Stringer, Member of Parliament for Blakely and Broughton, and I brought up the 2001 Rich Report and the Oldham riots. And then he did a little video saying, oh, we've learned plenty after that. 1 month later, it came out that Victoria Agolia had died of a drug overdose, who was raped by over 100 men, reported missing from a care home 150 times to the police. They knew everything about her perpetrators, and they did nothing. And that's what he said to me at a general election. If I ever see him again, I will tell him that the Labour Party are a load of crooks, liars and frauds. They don't care about white English girls mostly, and they do love to suck up to the Pakistani community, and that's what the police do. I'm sorry. People don't like me saying it, but I'm going to say it, and that's what's going on in Oldham. We have a person running the council who's got links to gangsters, Paradise. A brother's a drug dealer. One of her other friends is a convicted kidnapper, sexual torturer. And her best friend, Irish Imi, was Dale Cregan's getaway driver. This is who we've got in charge of Oldham Council. It's just an absolute farce. So we need to speak up. And I'm sure everyone on the panel will agree. We need to get to these public meetings and call out our councillors, members of parliament, whatever we can, and get it recorded. Alex's recording went viral, and so it should. And we need to call these people out for what they are. And until we do that, we're never going to go nowhere. But that's enough for me. But Pat?
No, I'll just hand it over to Alec. We're at the end of the stream. Do you want to finish on a few things, Alec?
I just wanted to say thanks for having me on, guys. If anybody wants to follow me, they can follow me at Renew Britannia on Telegram, Odysee, Twitter, or X now as it's called. Check out the Homeland Party website. And I just wanted to say, the National Housing Party, you're all doing great work. Keep it up and keep promoting community politics, because genuinely, I think this is the key.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. I'll just quickly add, next week we should have Chris Bateman on from the British Democrats. We're going to have guests on every week. And thanks for watching, everyone. Apologies for my viewing, my presentation. I'm staying at my mum's tonight. So over to you, Paul.
Good night and God bless.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. Thank you in the chat. Don't forget, follow us on social media and that. And I'll put some links up for Alex and the Homeland Party next couple of days, and you can find out. We've got more going on. I've got some podcasts coming up with Marcus Miller of the Homeland Party. And hopefully we'll be doing more stuff together. But thank you very much, everyone. And good night, guys. Good night. God bless.
Thank you.